Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Nike Zoom Freak 3 or the newest edition, the Nike Zoom Freak 4? Let's take a look. Welcome back to our channel. Today we are taking a closer look at the newest models to release from Giannis's signature line with Nike. But before I kind of get into more of like the performance side, I'll just touch on some of the basic info for these shoes. So starting off with the price, the Nike Zoom Freak 3 retails for $120. That is pretty average for basketball shoes. This year's Zoom Freak 4 did get a price jump and is now going to retail for $130. That's still going to be, middle of the pack for most basketball shoes out there. Nothing really to worry about there on the price side, but kind of checking out the appearance for these models. The build for these shoes, just looking at them on screen, the build is definitely similar, but what they did to the upper on each shoe is clearly going to be different. So the Zoom Freak 3s last year, they did have that strap on their shoe, and that's always one of my favorite part about basketball shoes. I think the strap looks really clean, but honestly, I didn't really love the reverse swoosh that they had going on, like kind of on the upper near that heel portion. The Zoom Freak 4 has a giant reverse swoosh, that like a giant reverse Nike swoosh built into the upper that I think looks so clean. Like Nike actually calls that reverse swoosh a staple. It's just like a signature part of Giannis's Zoom Freak line, and it has shown up on pretty much all of his shoes except for like maybe the twos. I don't know if it was on there. It's even like making its way onto his budget-friendly like Giannis Immortality line too now. So probably not everyone's gonna like that. I personally love it. I think it looks really cool. But on this Zoom Freak 4 model, you're also gonna see some ridges kind of in the midsole, just underneath that swoosh. And then they did kind of switch up the heel a little bit. Some like Freak text is gonna show up on the Zoom Freak 4 model. The Zoom Freak 3 just has more of like a rise to the midsole on the backside of the shoe. So I'll say that, not a bad look for either one of these models. But now let's go ahead and see how each of these shoes hold up on the court. So now getting into more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning. Sometimes we do see signature shoes really branch out and just try something new year to year. Other times you will get pretty much the same setup, just kind of recycled all over again. That is the side that we're going to fall on today. Like the cushioning setup for the Zoom Freak 3 and the 4 are pretty much identical. You're going to get the same lightweight midsole that is hollowed out in the forefoot, and that's where you're going to see two Zoom Air units that are kind of positioned in that spot. And that's meant to allow the Zoom Air units to just kind of compress underneath your weight and expand just to help give you better energy return. And you can really see what they mean by that on the Zoom Freak 4. Like those ridges in the midsole, those are like kind of some cutouts. They kind of mark out some of the spots that they were trying to get that like provide that energy return, allowing the model to compress. Plus that also helps like decrease the weight on the shoe. But I will say this, sometimes you do have like the similar same types of materials being used, and it just doesn't feel or play similar at all. That's not what we're dealing with today. Like the Zoom Freak 3 and the 4s, they pretty much have the same feel on the court. And just like the cushioning setup kind of implies, these are going to be more loaded kind of in the forefoot. Just the bulk of the comfort is going to come from that front portion of the shoe. So that setup has kind of grown on me a ton though. Like I used to prefer more of a balanced setup. Like I think PG's line has a lot of balanced shoes. LeBron is typically more of a balanced shoe line. Those have had some like more balanced setups, and I personally love having like that spring-loaded forefoot, if that's how it really feels. Like I wouldn't go as far as to say you get a ton of bounce from these models. Like I do feel better explosiveness on some other Nike shoes out there, like the Kyrie 8, the KD 15. I felt like those have just more spring than these like last few Zoom Freak models have had. And then another spot that was a little bit underwhelming on these shoes was the heel. Like especially whenever you have like more going on in the front, you're gonna want to make sure that you just don't forget about like the back half of the shoe. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say like that's what Nike did, just forgot all about it, but it's just not all that soft on both of these models. And I just noticed a few of these things like that I wasn't loving on the Zoom Freak 3s. They pretty much just like doubled down on it and put them again on the Zoom Freak 4. So like they just didn't change a ton to the cushioning setup. I thought that maybe they could have tweaked a little bit more with it, but using a durometer to check out the softness of the midsole, the Zoom Freak 3 is a little bit above average, reading in at a 44. The Zoom Freak 4 is slightly softer than the average at a 36, but still not a ton of difference there. And that kind of does check out because these shoes don't really feel different from each other at all whenever they're on the court, especially. So I am kind of done taking shots at these for like the cushioning section. It's not that bad at all. Like I don't want to come off and have it come off that way, but I do see some spots that they could change and just get better because honestly, between like KD, Kyrie, LeBron, PG, and Giannis, like all of the signature lines that they have, this one probably struggles the most for cushioning whenever it comes to all those other signature lines. So we'll kind of see what Nike does going forward. For the materials and the support, after dealing with like the same exact setup for the cushioning category on these shoes, we do see some more changes going on for this section. So I'm going to start off with the Zoom Freak 3, and in this thin kind of green portion that covers the toe box and works its way around like the back of the shoe, that's just a really thin textile that will help get some nice airflow to your foot. And then it's going to be like, a little more filled in and plush around the collar. But for the Zoom Freak 3, it is actually the first shoe to get a strap in Giannis' shoe line. Nike calls it like a molded hook and loop strap that is made from a flexible, durable TPU. shoe, and it's going to wrap over like the lower laces to help reduce internal foot movement. And just that, how it does that, it's just like harnessing your foot just over that cushioning setup, just trying to keep your foot in the footbed. And after talking a little bit negatively towards these shoe lines, you know, at least for the cushioning on Giannis's line, the materials and the support have always like kind of checked out for his shoes. These are going to give you a solid heel counter in the back, just going to help keep your foot more secure. And you also have an outrigger that extends out from the side of the shoe. It's just going to give you, you know, better balance and kind of brace your foot on all of those movements. So, but now switching it over to look at the Zoom Freak 4s, these are broken up a little bit differently. You still have a lot of the same ideas going on though. Like the toe region is going to be a thinner white textile, but that green section that moves on to like the middle of the shoe, that's going to be a new spot. Like it's super thin, you can literally see through it, so it's transparent. That's just another spot where, you know, the ventilation is going to be super nice for your foot, so you don't got to worry about it overheating or anything like that. But then along the back side of these is going to be just more filled in, just like the Zoom Freak 3s, going to give you a softer feel back there. And clearly the Zoom Freak 4, it did lose a strap, and usually, you know, the main purpose of that is for support more than anything else, but you have some really nice other support features on here. Like you're going to get the same outrigger that extends out from the side of the shoe. I mean, just looking at these from the bottom is crazy. Like you have so much more surface area in the front of these shoes than you do in the heel. I think that's so interesting. But I mean, now I'm looking at that big reverse swoosh coming back to that on the upper. That's going to do a really good job of just like keeping your foot in the shoe for lateral containment. I haven't felt any give whenever I'm making like harder cuts in that Zoom Freak 4 model. So once again, the support is going to check out. And the Zoom Freak 4 actually did get a little bit lighter this year. A size 10.5 weighs 382 grams. That's really light for a basketball shoe, so I do love that. The Zoom Freak 3 isn't bad either, weighing 404 grams for the same size. So with both of these shoes ranging on the lighter side, but also having good support, that's really all you can ask for. To finish off with traction, we have a slightly different look here, but both are going to be computer generated designs that are meant to resemble a topographical map. The Zoom Freak 3 has some indents in the forefoot and also has like a wavy pattern. The Zoom Freak 4 has a little bit of a better setup, I think. Like you have some ridges going both like horizontally and vertically, but I will say like they play about the same. And that's good, but not great. Like I wouldn't say you're going to get like a really sticky feel from either of these models on the court, just from what I felt. The Zoom Freak 3 was pretty average to me last year. Honestly, I am still kind of testing out the Zoom Freak 4, but it's looking to be pretty similar. I mean, so far with Giannis's line, cushioning and traction have seemed to kind of be staying in place. I mean, Nike is tweaking some things, obviously, like I guess for the pattern at least, but I didn't really get a noticeably different feel on the court. Like the grip's about the same. But to finish off with sizing, I did go true to size on both of these models, and that's pretty much perfect for me. Like looking at these from the bottom, you can just tell like neither model is going to be narrow, so nothing to worry about there. The Zoom Freak 4 is going to be slightly longer for the length, but it's still pretty close. So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, I mean, the appearance is probably like the biggest change that even came from these models. Like, I really do love the reverse swoosh though, so I'm going to start off going with the Zoom Freak 4. Then looking at the cushioning, like I said, you get the same setup, pretty much the exact same feeling, so I'm going to go with the tie there. As for the materials, I mean, both of these shoes are going to be light. You do feel a lot of the same materials and just like kind of textures going on for these shoes on these models. So I'm going to go with the tie there again. But for the support, even with the Zoom Freak 4s losing that strap, the reverse swoosh does a really good job just to reinforce your foot. And both shoes have like a nice outrigger. Neither shoe struggles with it here again. So I'm going to come back to a tie. And then to finish off with traction, I mean, virtually these shoes give you the same exact feel on the court, which isn't going to be the best. It's still not bad either, but it is going to be a tie for that section. So as for the better shoe to hoop in, not a lot of wiggle room here. It looks like I am going to have to go with the tie. I really do hate whenever reviews end like this, but I mean, sometimes it just happens. And it is kind of more common to see that whenever we're looking at two shoes within the same shoe line. But still, I'd rather sit here and talk about all the improvements that were made compared to basically just drawing the conclusion. You can pick either model and you're going to get about the same experience just based off of performance alone. Like, I mean, that is what it is. Right now, I'm just kind of waiting for Nike to move the needle forwards just a little bit for either the cushioning or the traction. It'd be nice if they did it for both, but I mean, after like a repeated cushioning setup between these two models, I'm expecting something different coming from this Zoom Freak 5 model that'll drop next year, so I'm definitely looking forward for that. But as for the Zoom Freak 3 and the Zoom Freak 4, in my opinion, just pick the model that you like the look of better, or just, you know, go with the cheaper model. That's one way to decide too, and then just kind of roll with that. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Feel free to drop a follow or subscribe if you like this video. And if you're interested in buying the Nike Zoom Freak 4 and you want to support our channel, just click the link that we have here on screen, or we have links for both shoes down below or in our bio, so feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.